What's up? My name is Savannah Breimer, and I have a true crime podcast called Killer Instinct. If you like true crime, if you like learning about unsolved cases, finding out more information about solved cases, or learning about serial killers, you are going to love my podcast. It would really mean a lot to me if you could pause the show you're listening to right now, head over to Killer Instinct, and hit follow, because you are not going to want to miss the episodes that we have coming. And as a bonus for Halloween, I'll be posting a brand new podcast episode every day leading up to Halloween, starting on October 28th all the way to Halloween on October 31st. We're going to be covering some of the craziest cases in history and some of the craziest cases that I have ever talked about yet. It's 4 days of back-to-back podcast true crime episodes that you are not going to want to miss. And then after that, we are going to be posting back on our regular schedule of every single Wednesday. So if you love true crime, then this is the podcast for you. Go over and subscribe to my podcast, Killer Instinct, and I can't wait to see you there next time.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Waveform podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Marquez Brownlee.
And I'm Andrew Manganelli.
And today we got a lot to talk about. We'll go over the last few videos, including interviewing Will Smith and why we re-uploaded a YouTube video 1,000 times manually. Then we'll get really in our feelings about Pixel 4 and the rest of the Google event this week, but then bring it back to a happy place, talking about the 2020 iPhone with YouTube friends Justine and Jenna Ezarik. Techtober rolls on. We're in it. Welcome back. All right, so let's get it all started with a little bit of a recap. So in typical Techtober fashion, we have 4 new videos since the last episode. First up, we'll do, we had the Will Smith interview.
Yeah, that's
a lot of
pretty
fun.
big, yeah.
Yeah, no big deal. So last week we had Satya Nadella from Microsoft continuing the Talking Tech series with none other than Gemini star, Men in Black star, Fresh Prince star, rapper, actor, comedian, philanthropist, and we learned cook.
Yeah.
Will Smith. That was a lot of fun. So something you don't often see is people who are extremely busy like that taking time to just talk tech for a little bit. This one was because we finally found a reason after YouTube Rewind to collab on something a bit tech related, because the movie he's in, Gemini Man, which is actually now recently out, had a bunch of tech in it that was like necessary to make it happen. It was him with a younger version of himself.
Which, for one, Will Smith looks like he's 35 years old. I don't know if he needed CGI to
That's
do
actually
that.
kind of the thing. Is
It's crazy.
He looks like a 29-year-old Will Smith already, even though he's, 50-something?
I think he's right around 50.
Hey, Google, how old is Will Smith?
Will Smith is 51 years old.
Sorry to trigger all of your assistants at home, unless you have Siri. Hey, Siri, how old is Will Smith? Just kidding. Okay. No, yeah, that's, it was a lot of fun to talk. Thank you, Siri.
That's the first time Siri's actually done something we've asked.
Usually she's responding to literal nothingness. Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. Don't really have a whole lot to add to that. I mean, just go watch it. We did a meme review at the end, which was for sure
he was just
fun.
a super nice guy, and that's probably the most time we've had for an interview. Every time we sit down with like a CEO who they're equally as busy.
Yeah.
They sit down, they tell us we have X amount of time. We usually have that amount of time minus a third of that. And have very short interviews, where this was one where we actually finished every single question we had written, and they were like, oh, that's it?
Oh, you're done?
And we're like, yeah, we're not used to this much time, but I still think it came out to be a great interview, and it was super fun, and he was a great sport with all the meme review stuff, which wound up being hilarious.
I think there's 2 very different types of people who are good at being interviewed, and we've talked to both. One, actually, we've talked to sort of an overlap, but one is the CEO who's really good at being interviewed because he's used to giving non-answers to press. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They get asked all the time, like, what are your plans for this future product? And they go, well, we're thinking very hard about, and we care very much about, and blah, blah, blah. And that's the typical answer. And so far, we've kind of avoided that sort of nonsense answer.
Yeah.
But then you also get, like, the people who are good at being interviewed, like Kobe Bryant, who's just charismatic and good at talking about whatever he wants to talk about, or someone like Will Smith, who's just been on camera for 25 years in a row and just knows how to be good.
He knows how to bring everyone to his level as well, and
exactly.
it shows. And then you have Elon Musk.
And exactly, and that's like the sort of in between. It's like Elon is like able to be the CEO that gives 9 answers, but also when you just geek out with someone like that for more than about 5 minutes, we just talk tech for a while. So anyway, Will Smith interview was fun. Then we had our Apple Watch review. Apple Watch Series 5, we have a TLDR, which is just the always on display.
It hurts.
It hurts. Yeah. It's gonna hurt your battery. That's just the end of the story there. I'm at right now actually having a pretty good day, 67%. So
it's around 3 o'clock right now.
3 p.m. So that's a pretty good day for my always on that I've had it on. I actually have a sort of a developing theory, which is that certain watch faces are more efficient with the always on display.
It makes sense.
I haven't tested this yet, but the modular one that I've used for a while was really crushing my battery, so I've switched to this other one that's just the time, and then it darkens, and it's just the dark version of those digits.
So we'll just make a watch face that just says one number. You just know what hour you're on, and then it'll crush.
I just want to know roughly, somewhat, what time it is.
It just says morning or afternoon.
Afternoon. Is it afternoon? Nope, it's still more. Oh, no, it's afternoon. I guess it's about 12. Apple Watch Series 5. Pretty simple there. Then we had I'm going to go with our dumbest video yet, but also one of the most fun, the 1,000 Uploads project.
Yeah. So
if you haven't seen this, how would you describe what happened in this video?
What happened? I mean, first we have to give the credit due to the guy, I forget his name unfortunately, but there was an original video like 5 or 6 years ago?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. Wow.
A decade.
Yeah, where he just uploaded and downloaded a video 1,000 times and it just turned into visual and audio mush.
I would say it turned into a puddle.
A puddle. The puddle is a great way of describing it. And then when I heard it again, it literally sounded like something was falling into a puddle and just dripping. But yeah, what would I say ours? A lot of people say you got Thanos.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone's gonna be mad because I don't think either of us have seen Endgame or
I
Avengers.
Haven't. I mean, I've seen what he looks like. So basically, if you don't know what happened, actually, this all originated from an audio project of someone way back in the day, Alvin, recording. I'm sitting in a room and this whole long sentence and recording it to a tape, and then recording the recording of the tape, and then recording the recording of the tape, and he did that over and over again to observe audio artifacts. Alvin Lucier, I believe, is how I pronounce that name. And now we did this with an 8K YouTube video, where we uploaded the 8K video to YouTube, downloaded that video, uploaded that, downloaded that video, uploaded that, downloaded that, and got to 1,000 uploads. And as you can see, and I mean, this is a very visual thing, so it's almost no way to go over it on the podcast, but it turns to very pixelated, discolored, softened mush.
I think the best way to describe it is first of all, your skin tone gets completely destroyed. It turns into like a T-Mobile magenta pink.
It really does.
I'm sure John Legere is super pumped to see that. And then every time you move, it has this kind of winding off trail. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's an OK Go music video where, OK Go always does crazy stuff. The whole thing is everything they wave around trails. So it kind of reminded me of that. And it just got destroyed pretty much. Yeah, it was the audio completely went away because it comes back a couple frames every time you download
until it slid completely out the other side of the video.
Around like 800, I think.
Here's a question we got more than anything else on Twitter. Why didn't you guys write a script to do that automatically instead of manually downloading and uploading? Because you did most of this downloading and uploading.
I think between Vin and I, he probably did like 300 to 400, and then I did the rest. It was a lot.
I gave you credit on Twitter by saying I did the first one, and then I let them split the next 999. I don't know, first of all, exactly how to make a script do that. I'm sure a lot of people who were like, why didn't you write a script? I could have done that in 5 seconds. Probably true. But also, here's something we learned from not writing a script is YouTube has, I guess it's a spam limit or some sort of a limitation to prevent spam of about 100 uploads every 24 hours.
Yeah, we guessed about 100 uploads. I think it's from the time you hit that 100th upload, you're on a 24-hour penalty till you can do it again. So it's not even, those 100 uploads would take somewhere between 5 to 6 hours. I mean, that's while we're sitting at work doing stuff, so I would get distracted, but it took a long time. So it took a few weeks. And then the other thing is you can't download it until it's fully processed on YouTube, which you think going down into these 2 megabyte files that'll happen instantly, but YouTube just doesn't care apparently how long it takes to process stuff. So sometimes it was instant, sometimes it would take 10 minutes, and the worst thing you could do was download a not fully processed video and then download that a bunch of times and then realize you're 50 downloads deep into the one that didn't get processed, so you have to delete all of them, ruin your cap limit for that day. And
And you only get 50 for the day because then you start over, basically. Yeah. How small do the files get?
Never went under 2, or maybe it hit like 1.9, but I would say somewhere around pretty early, it dropped down to 2 and would just, but the strange thing was it would go from 2 to 2.1, 2.1 to 2.1, 2, and it would vary between that.
Some weird rounding. It's kind of like when I do, some people might not know this, but when I make a thumbnail, I'm exporting a frame of the video originally and like editing it. I edit a lot of the thumbnails mostly in Final Cut Pro, fun fact.
I try and get them off it.
So I'll make it 16:9 and I'll do all the graphics and whatever, all the coloring, and then I'll export it and it'll be about 45 megabytes. And then I have to export that PNG into a JPEG that is less than 2 megabytes because that's the maximum file size for a custom thumbnail on YouTube. All I do is go into Preview in macOS 10 and just export as a JPEG and drag the quality slider lower and lower until it gets under 2 megabytes for estimated file size. And then that's my thumbnail.
I don't get how websites, especially ones like YouTube, can't just be like, here it is, we'll just compress it for you.
I mean, so on Twitter, it does do that.
Yeah.
So if I upload a 50 megabyte image, like I've done this by accident to Twitter, you'd think it would be like this huge, super crisp file. But when you go and view that tweet later, it'll be like a really muddy, like softened, compressed version because Twitter compresses the crap out of your images.
Yeah.
That's just the way an image hosting website like Twitter has to work. But yeah, it was just kind of fascinating to see the JPEG happening on YouTube and just what that sort of turned into over a 30-second video. So then, last but not least, the fourth video of the week was our Pixel 4 impressions video. So we had that whole event, and of course, it was a couple of other things happening during that event, but we'll go over that a little bit more later in the episode. That'll be more of the meat of the show. But is there any content that you liked somewhere on the interwebs in the last 2 weeks that you enjoyed that you want to share? I actually have something.
I think it's you. Yeah, go.
Okay, so Eliud Kipchoge.
Don't know the
Does that name ring a bell?
Not at all.
Okay, so he was in the news recently for a couple of reasons. He's arguably, but not really, the greatest marathoner of all time.
Okay. I think
so
I know
he was involved in the Nike Under 2 project where they were trying to see if a human could physically break the 2-hour mile barrier. So this is 26 miles, 26.2 miles.
2-hour marathon barrier.
What did I say?
Mile barrier.
Oh my God.
think I could beat the 2-hour mile barrier.
I could definitely beat that. No, it's the 2-hour marathon barrier.
Okay. That's
which
insane.
is insane. If you've never, I don't know if you've never heard of a marathon, but it's
look up
26.2 miles. Yeah.
Look up marathon times. They're not close to
It's
2
obscene.
hours.
If you've ever tried to jog one, you've probably ended up around 4 hours, to be completely real. It's insane to go under 3 hours for any competitive runner.
Do you know what the average mile is on that?
So he had to run in under 2 hours, and there were some calculations. I believe it's about a 4.5 minute mile consecutively for 26 straight miles. Here's some context on that, because I ran track in high school, and this was mainly in the off season to stay in shape for ultimate. But I did run track, and it was indoor, and I ran the half mile and the mile, and I never ran a sub 5 minute mile pace as a in shape high school kid.
Yeah,
right. So 5 minutes is already a pretty fast mile. 4 minutes was considered like there's another one of those human barriers that you don't know if you can do it. And then once you finally get a human to break that barrier, then suddenly the barrier drops again, which is this really fascinating phenomenon. So the 4 minute mile went, that was a long time ago. I think Roger Bannister, I don't know how I'm remembering these names, but
just nod and I'll agree.
He got a 3 minute 59 second mile, and since then I think the world record's about 3:43 now for the mile. So it's insane. So another one of those barriers that marathoners were not sure if the human body could hold up to breaking was 2 hours for the mile. And the world record for the marathon, I think, was also a Kipchoge record, which is about 2 hours, 1 minute, and 40 seconds, something like that, where it was like, you know what? If anyone can do it, it's this guy. So the Nike Sub 2 project he participated in, it was specifically designed to go under 2. He was unsuccessful. He came back again. They had another attempt on this track, and I believe it was Vienna, and it was successful. And he ran 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds, which is an absurd pace. So the piece of content I wanted to recommend was on the Wired YouTube channel. They have a video about how exactly this was done. Here's the bummer. It doesn't count as an official marathon world record because he used pacers and those pacers were interchanged throughout the race, and that immediately disqualifies him, and there's a couple other little things. But they also had, you can see in this video, a car that drove in front of him the entire time, an electric car so that he wasn't breathing fumes the entire time, and it projected lasers on the ground in front of him to a line that he had to chase to achieve this 4.5 minute mile per mile pace for 26 miles, and he just had to follow that line on the ground and the pacers that were with him.
Simple. Yeah, of course he didn't get the record. That shouldn't count.
That's a lot. It's a lot going on to like ensure, and literally they had a guy on a bike biking next to him, like handing him a water bottle that he would hand back so that he could see exactly how many milliliters he drank so he could optimize his fuel consumption. It was nuts. It was very, very precise. It was a high-tech thing. It disqualified him from the world record, but it was fascinating to see. That's potentially the epitome of human athletic achievement, I would say.
That's absolutely crazy. And what always baffles me about records like that are 2 hours long is like, what if you fail by a minute? You have to do this all over. I hate to compare it to like, have you ever watched video game speedrunners where they try and beat a whole game?
Yeah.
That stuff is crazy to me because they're spending 2 or 3 hours on this one thing and they're missing it by like 2 or 3 minutes. And it's like, okay, that wasn't even cool. No one cares about that because I didn't get it.
Right.
And then that's 3 hours gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. I watched a time lapse of it, and I skipped through the time lapse, and I realized I don't have the mental stamina to do this because it's a time lapse of a 2-hour event, and the time lapse was 10 minutes long, and I still didn't watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, they need to get some mid-rolls on that video, though. So
it was a long 2 hours, but he did it. And another fun fact is the women's marathon world record was broken the same week.
Really?
On a legal course. So she
no lasers.
I don't have the name or the race, but it was Paula Radcliffe's record was broken. So
wow.
A fun week in the world of marathoning, I will say.
Yeah.
So go check that out. We'll have it in the show notes if you want to watch Wired's video. Lasers, electric cars, pacers, it's a good time. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk Pixel. This episode of Waveform is also brought to you by Knowable. Knowable creates immersive, screen-free learning experiences that can help people get inspired, learn new things, and accomplish new personal and professional goals. And Knowable recently released a new course that focuses on launching a startup, so you can hear exclusive lessons from teachers like Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian, Goat co-founder Eddie Liu, and a whole team of other founders, marketers, investors, and attorneys who will walk you through the entire process of building a startup step by step. Knowable helps you learn how to come up with new business ideas, how to develop products, build your brand, impress investors, and everything else that might come with starting a new business. Even people who have been running their own business for a long time have learned a lot when they're taught by the world's top entrepreneurs. And even though it's a course, it doesn't feel like school or work. Knowable doesn't have homework, it doesn't have tests, and it's actually interesting and enjoyable to listen to. So Knowable courses come with a downloadable e-textbook, recommended reading lists, curated resources, and more. You can even get a code to share the course with a friend or your business's co-founder for free so that you can learn together. Listen on the Knowable app on iOS or Android or online at knowable.fyi. That's knowable.fyi. And use the code MKBHD at checkout for 20% off. That's MKBHD at checkout for 20% off. This episode of Waveform is also sponsored by SimpliSafe. A recent survey shows that Americans worry more about burglary than almost any other crime, more than theft, more than murder. Most break-ins are spur of the moment, crimes of opportunity, and what most people don't know is that the average break-in occurs between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., so right in the middle of the day. And what's even crazier is that only 1 in 5 homes have home security. Maybe because most companies really don't make it that easy to be protected. They can be expensive and burdensome. That's why SimpliSafe is the top choice. SimpliSafe protects your whole home, every window, room, and door with 24/7 monitoring for just a fraction of the cost. Their police dispatch is up to 3.5 times faster because they use video verification. And SimpliSafe has no contracts, no hidden fees, and no fine print. It's designed to blend right into your home or rental, no wires and no drilling. It's easy to order and easy to set up. In fact, setup is usually finished in under an hour. That's why SimpliSafe has won tons of awards from places like CNET and Wirecutter, and their prices are always fair and honest. Around-the-clock monitoring is just $15 a month. So visit simplisafecom/wave and you'll get a free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. So you've got nothing to lose. Go now and be sure to visit SimpliSafe. That's SIMPLI safe.com/wave so they know we sent you. That's simplysafe.com/wave. All right, welcome back. And as you know, in Techtober, there's a ton of events, ton of new tech. And we had Google's event, their hardware event for the fall, where they got their products out for the holiday season. And there's a bunch of stuff.
Quite a bit. I mean, we're all obviously there for the Pixel 4 because no one had seen it yet. So we were really, really excited.
Haven't we seen it, though?
I'm just kidding.
Haven't we seen it?
It was painfully hard to listen to everything else because we just wanted to see what it looked like. But so let's see. We had Nest Wi-Fi, which for Google, they claim it's like the best or the most sold mesh Wi-Fi system in the US.
See that.
It makes sense because everyone else is probably just looking for Linksys or TP-Link or everything like that on Amazon. So as a big company selling it, one cool thing I thought about it was they're making the mesh points have the same capabilities as the Nest Mini or the Google Home Mini. They changed that also, we found out. So like a mesh point has a speaker and has assistant capabilities. So
right,
you don't have to do two in a room.
The routers have little speakers now. So instead of buying a little small router and a Google Home Mini, you get one thing, and I guess the price seems to make sense. You get all of that. You get a 2-pack for $269, I think it was.
Is that it? Yeah.
So you kind of do double duty there. Get a little speaker in it.
Yeah. And then speaking of that, new Nest Mini, which I think the newest thing about it now is that it's called the Nest Mini. Honestly, and not Google Home Mini.
Yeah, that's the newest thing. And I have a theory about why they're doing that.
Yeah.
I might have said this before around the studio, but like, people have a certain level of trust with different companies.
Oh yeah.
And when you think about like putting a camera or any sort of Google product in your home, there's always like the slight hesitation of like, they know a lot about me. Privacy is a small concern. Nest, though, on the other hand, is one of those companies with a great reputation. People willingly buy Nest thermostats and Nest cameras and put them in their homes on purpose. Google bought Nest. And so Google will now freely put the Nest name on all of the things they want to comfortably slide into your home.
Yeah, to listen to you, to watch you.
Yeah, so Nest Mini is what it's called.
So you're saying Facebook better go buy up...
Facebook should go buy up...
Because Facebook will never get a camera in my house, I can tell
It's also called the Portal, which is not a friendly name either. So they should work on like maybe that first too. Yeah. Anyway, so the Nest Mini's out. It's also like $50.
$50 is great. I think the two upgrades were better bass apparently, which is coming from a mini speaker that didn't have great bass to start. So who cares? And a wall mount, basically just a place. They showed the picture of it. There's still wire hanging down. It looks terrible.
That's the tough thing about a wall mount is you still have to plug it in.
Yeah. So I hope somehow they'll be able to make a wireless version of that. I have no idea how because of the battery life, obviously, but
that might be interesting. Like, is there enough polling and active listening happening that it would crush a battery, or do you think they could make like a hockey puck sized Google Home? I mean, I guess that's not really something people need. They don't move it around the house very often.
They don't, but even like I have one hung up on like a shelf in my dining room, and there's a wire hanging down under this really nice looking shelf, and I just hate how it looks like that. But
would you deal with getting rid of the wire if you knew you had to recharge it every week or something? That seems like kind of a pain still.
Yeah, it does. I'm not saying I have the solution for it. Okay. I would just love for it to magically happen.
Yeah, I guess I just wonder how much battery would they have to throw in that thing to not have to charge it until like once a month?
Yeah.
Seems like a good...
It would be tough. And then honestly, at that point, anytime you add recharging in, someone's going to forget, and then I'm going to sit home, ask Google something, and it won't work, and then...
And you'd be like, these darn things never work.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what's funny? In the Nest family, I have the thermostats I do have in my house, but each one of them is in like a weird area where it's not perfect for sensing temperature. Like one of them's behind my TV. So anytime the TV turns on, it thinks it's warmer in the room and it might turn the AC on. So I had to get these external sensors that I can put in the room that they talk to read the temperature from like a better place in the room.
Yeah.
And they have these tiny little batteries in them, and they just never die.
Really?
These like car key batteries.
That's awesome.
And I've had them for months, and they still work. So
that's really funny.
That's impressive.
It kind of we're so far off track now. But,
Sorry.
No, it's all right. This reminds me of this story my friend had. He was in a small apartment, and the thermostat was right behind where he put his desktop computer.
It's going to be hot.
It started getting really cold, and the thermostat never threw the heat on because his fans were just blowing heat out of his computer all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so Nest Mini. So that's the thing.
Nest Mini. Then we have Pixelbook. Pixelbook 2, is that what they're calling it?
They spent like 12 seconds on Pixelbook. Honestly, on stage. Like I saw like a rapid fire of like close-up angles of corners of the thing. And then I saw the price slide and one full screen shot, and it was over.
Yeah.
Like I have really not seen much of Pixelbook.
Two thoughts on it.
Okay.
The first one is, what is it, $699 now?
$649, I believe.
$649. One, still too expensive, but way better than $1,000, because I don't know how they ever thought someone was going to spend $1,000 on a Chromebook.
That was a tough sell.
That was a very tough sell. And then the other thing was just the way they described the colors. I think it was a woman on stage who literally goes, and it comes in just black and not pink. And I was like, wow, you really don't like pink, that you're specifically saying it doesn't. Oh, wait, that's
the
your
name
naming
of the
scheme.
color.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called just black, and the other one's called not pink.
Yeah, but in the sentence she said it out loud and made it sound like it's only coming in black.
Trust me, it doesn't come in pink.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Well, I think I'll probably end up buying one and checking it out, just because I've been on a little streak of checking out the latest Chromebooks, and the last one didn't go so great. So we'll see if this one goes better. This might be it, Chief. We'll see. Pixel Buds 2 also came out, and this was an interesting one because they look impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, as impressive as earbuds can be. They have Google Assistant built in. They have a 5-hour battery life and then a 24-hour case. Pretty small, compact design. They say they'll sound good.
They had like a little spatial awareness, or it was like a hole in the bottom, so it lets in a certain amount of outside noise to not feel like you have that like suction feeling, which I think sounds super interesting. I have my Jaybird runs, and as much as I love them, it does feel like, even though they're just small in the ears, it feels like something's like
it feels like they're like pushing you. It's the seal they create, basically. But also, I think when they want you to be comfortable and wear them all the time, you don't want to feel like you're in this closed environment. So that whole, I think, is going to be good for that. The big problem is, I don't know, they don't come out till spring 2020. Yeah. That's a lot. What is so special about these smart assistant speakers and earbuds that's taking so long? We still don't have Bixby speaker. Why is it taking so long for Google to make these?
I have no idea. The Vergecast did an interview with Rick Osterloh, and he said something that they're coming up before I.O., and there's no more event between now and I.O., so they wanted to announce them, but I can't imagine there's not. Even on the Vergecast, he pulls them out and starts listening to them, but won't show them to Nilay. So
wow,
it sounds like they're pretty much ready to go. But yeah, I think the hard thing is they look cool based on all the features and how they look. They look like they could be great, but nothing matters until we hear them.
Right.
We
they
can say it
sound
looks
pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they kind of hedged their bet last time on differentiating based on, that translate feature they tried to sell everyone on, where you could sort of live translate with this app and hopefully speak to people in different languages. First of all, I don't know how many people thought that was a useful case. Like, maybe a couple people would love that to do that every day.
If it worked perfectly, it could literally change the world. But
it would have been super cool,
happening.
But it didn't work perfectly, and they also didn't sound great. So they really didn't have a lot going for them. We'll see about these. But that really all was just the sort of precursor to Pixel 4, which honestly no one had any idea what that phone would look like. We were shocked by seeing this on stage, and if you can't hear the sarcasm dripping from my voice, this was like I think easily the most leaked phone of all time, right above Pixel 3. So
yeah,
good work, Google. What did you think? You've been a Pixel 3 guy Pixel 3 XL guy for a while. So we got the new specs. We got Snapdragon 855, 6 gigs of RAM. We got 64 or 128 gigs of storage, and then we got this new design.
All right, let's start hardware, looks, design.
Sure.
Let's just start there because it goes down a rabbit hole. After that. I like how it looks. Black bumper, I'm in love with. I think looks really,
matte
really
black
good.
bumper.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
The two matte colors look great. Orange looks great. White looks great. Black, like we said in our video. I think your video talks about how you feel personally attacked.
Yeah.
And that was just like a...
So they
I don't know why. We've been pretty nice to you, Google. I don't know why you have such a vendetta against Marquez, but...
Just make the matte black one, guys. So I'm holding the... It's very coral, I would say, the orange one.
Yeah.
In fact, it's very close to the coral color of the iPhone XR from last year.
Yeah, we pulled it out. We pulled our XR out, and it's very similar. A little less saturated, I would call it. But I love that the logo's kind of the same color, so it doesn't blow out like, hey, we're a Google phone. It's just very, very clean looking.
Low-key, it's pretty clean.
It's very clean.
I'm going to say it's a clean, nice-looking back of the phone. The camera square on the back is smaller than the iPhone.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have the individual like cutouts like the stovetop, so... I'm sure there's some Apple people out there going to be like, I can't believe you I don't like it, but I like it a little better than the iPhone one.
They look the same, but they also look different.
It looks a bit cleaner. It looks cleaner for a stupid bump on the back of a phone.
A little cleaner, a little smaller, a little darker. So that's fine. Then they have this matte black texture on the back. So the coral one, matte. The white one, matte. The black one, glossy. Okay, wow. Okay, well, so they have the even matte black rails on that phone, but the back is like this jet black, and every single one I saw at that event was covered in fingerprints. It was just
I think
gross.
even some of the pictures I saw on Twitter, with Twitter compression, I could see fingerprints on it, so that's bad.
They're pretty bad. So I felt personally attacked there.
Yeah.
Then there's 2 cameras on the back of the Pixel, and this is one where, you know, there's people who were, for the most part, kind of on my side on this one. They decided on a main camera and a telephoto camera. And I get it. Like, they justified it pretty well on stage. And they had me up to a point. They're like, you know, portrait mode will do better because we can use the data from both cameras now to do better depth. And we can do much better zoom. It's a 2x zoom, but super res zoom from the 2x will be even better. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's a telephoto lens. It's f2.4, so it's a little slow. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe that's not so bad. And then the guy on stage like wraps it up with, so while we think ultra wide is fun, I swear to God, he looked over at me.
Your toys.
He looked over at me. He was like, so while ultra wide may be fun, we think telephoto is just more useful. And literally, Danny Winget's like right in front of me, super scientific, turned around and just kind of like chuckled at me. And I was like, yeah, dude, I don't know how I feel anymore. This feels like a personal attack.
I feel like I have a ton of feelings just about this camera. I mean, let's be real. Pixel is super popular because of its camera.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody arguing that.
Pixel 3 was all about the camera. If you watch any Pixel 3 review from last year, from the last 12 months, the most talked about thing in, I'm going to go ahead and say 90-something% of those videos is camera. Photos specifically.
Yeah.
So you're kind of looking to re-energize that focus on the camera. Let's say you work for Google. You're like, all right, let's make sure this camera is better than last year. What's everyone else doing? Let's see. Ultra wide. Okay. iPhone, ultra wide. Okay. LG, ultra wide. What about like the fringe ones, like ROG phone? Ultra wide. Okay. Let's see. Gaming phone, Razer phone. Ultra wide. Okay. Let's see. What else is in our price range? Ultra wide. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Why? Okay. So here's my gripe, because I've seen some comments about how, oh, you can take a photosphere or a panorama to get your ultra wide. Guys, that's not what I mean.
Yeah, you can walk 10 more feet forward.
You can also
want to
walk
zoom
backwards.
in on something.
Exactly. This is about like the fun, creative angle you can get from like just walking up to something and snapping a super close up and getting the ultra wide perspective, getting a landscape, getting more of the night sky if you're astrophotography. All this stuff would have been so much more fun with an ultra wide, especially when you have the square, and the only other people to do that square design on the back had 3 cameras in the iPhone 11 Pro, and when they didn't do 3 cameras, they had an ultra wide as a second camera. So it's going to be tough. Here's a complaint a lot of people had about the camera. Video really didn't take a big step up.
No.
If you look at it on paper, you had 4K 30 instead of 4K 60.
Or 24. You know,
and no 24. So you have no 24 native, so no improvement on the spec sheet there. And then the front-facing camera just does, I think, 1080 30 FPS. So you're not getting 4K from the front-facing camera either. And there's also not 2 front-facing cameras anymore. I know the Pixel 3 had a super ultra-wide front-facing camera and a standard. This one's just, it's pretty wide, but it's only 1 front-facing camera. I don't hate that as much. I like that it's still pretty wide, but no 4K video from that.
Yeah, no 4K video is weird. No 4K 60 on the back is weird. You'd think they'd make this step up. Actually, to go back to the Vergecast interview with Rick, he literally didn't even have like an answer as to why it didn't have it. He was just like, I don't know, we'll get there kind of thing. It wasn't great, but I'm fine with 1 camera on the front as long as it's wider. I think wider selfies was a great idea because it just makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you put it on the back?
People have been asking,
like wide.
People have been asking for a wider selfie camera on the iPhone forever, and they finally did it, and it's looked great. And John Morrison, TLD Today, he's shot a couple of videos, actually. I think his last 2, just with the 4K front-facing ultra-wide on the iPhone.
I think that was a slap in the face to the...
It looks great, and talked about the Pixel in those videos. I'm not mad about the front-facing camera, but I am just very intrigued by I think what you said about him not having an answer, You know what that tells me is that they really just didn't focus on video again this time.
Yeah, and I would be like, you know what, I take way more photos than videos. I totally understand that some people like that video is a second thought to a lot of people, but I just am not as happy with the still photo upgrades in this. Like, I feel like we went back, maybe not back a step. They took away portrait mode on the regular wide camera, which is really strange because people have been asking Apple to do that for so long. They added this year. Pixel comes out with it 2 times, and then they're like, "Oh, we're going to take it away from your wide." I just took a portrait of you today to test it, and you even said to me, like, "Did you have to walk that far back to take that?" I was
like halfway across the room.
I was like, "That's a medium shot for this now." I have this weird theory about the 2 times so they talk about how that telephoto zooming in's more important for the customer or something, right? They didn't want ultra-wide. Ultra-wide's fun, telephoto's more useful, right?
They gave some numbers like, oh, we noticed a lot of people pinch to zoom in, so we just want to make that better quality. Yeah.
Why 2 times? Like, I don't know what you can put in a phone, I guess. Are there 3 or 5 times? Like, I would kill for a 5 times in a phone.
Right. So the OnePlus
5 times optical.
Yeah, the OnePlus 7 Pro has a 3x optical zoom, and the Huawei Mate 30, or what is this? The Mate. Oh, I'm gonna mess up. They have so many. I think it's the Mate 30 Pro that I've been using. Has the 5 times optical zoom, but it's the periscope zoom, so it's a little bit of a different mechanic in there. But yeah, you're right. Like a 3x or a little more would have been a little more productive.
I would be way more okay with not having an ultra wide if it was like a really good telephoto. They keep talking about this. I forget, enhanced super zoom or whatever, which they had last year. Maybe I'm zooming in too far, but I'm not getting great pictures out of a really good zoom. They say it like uses the sway of your body to fix everything, but
the shake of your hands. If you'd asked me if Google was going to put 2 cameras on the next Pixel, what is the worst second camera that they could put in the Pixel? Top of my list would have been a black and white depth sensor, and second on my list would have been probably like a 2x telephoto, because that sounds about useless. And that's what we got here.
Yeah.
It's looking pretty tough in a world where the $100 cheaper iPhone 11 has the ultra wide, has, a bunch of other things that people tend to value in a phone, has a wider selfie camera, has all these things. $100 less. That's going to be a tough sell. Bigger battery.
That's a great segue. Let's go right into pricing. What do you think about pricing on these?
It's a little strange. I think the Pixel 4, smaller one, is overpriced.
Sure.
And I think the Pixel 4 XL is tough. It's like it's right at the peak of, like, if it was $50 less, I would have been like fine with it, but it's right at the peak of, is it really worth it? So the Pixel 4 is $799.
Yeah.
And the Pixel 4 XL is $899. Both of those phones have 64 gigs of storage, so right off the bat, a lot of people are going to want to upgrade, which gets you $128, and your starting prices become $899 and $999. That's pretty tough. That's pretty expensive. You're competing with the big dogs now.
There's like a couple things about that. First of all, 64 gigs of storage. I feel like you could pull that off on the Pixel 3 before, because they offered the original quality photo storage, the unlimited of it, and then they take that away this year.
Right.
So 64 gigs on a phone that you're probably buying because you like the camera a lot just seems kind of pointless.
Seems like
I don't consider $799 a starting price anymore. No one wants that phone.
So we'll see. I mean, this is all pre-review, and the review is going to be coming out next week, and we're going to evaluate, see if the cameras really do make a difference, and there's a lot of stuff we got to test. I think the number one thing we really have question marks about is these sensors up at the front.
Jesus.
So they tossed a radar sensor. Should I call it a radar gun? A radar sensor in the front of the phone?
I definitely call it radar, because I think this is the first time radar has been in a phone, is what they say. This is different than how LG does it. Almost works just as well.
Yeah, okay. So LG did this front-facing gesture stuff with just infrared and some I don't even remember what they called it, hemoglobin your blood
they had
sensor.
That. Yeah, that was like an unlock feature.
Yeah, that was a lot. We'll just skip over Palm ID for a second. But now we have a bigger forehead on this phone and no notch, because they've stuck a bunch of sensors in there: IR blaster, receiver, the radar, and all this sensor suite is used for face unlock. Mixed impressions, and this isn't my review, but mixed impressions. It's very, very fast.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we notice, is you unlock the phone, and this radar is being used to sort of project this like bubble around your phone to give it a sort of awareness of what's around it. If you walk away from the phone, it notices that nothing is near it, and it turns the always on display off. Mm-hmm. When you come up next to it and you reach up to the phone, it starts to wake everything up. The display sort of lights up a little bit, and as soon as you pick up the phone, it unlocks it because it's already lit up the sensors and it knows you're picking it up, and it goes right to unlock the phone.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that worked super fast, super well. To the point where, and I'll mention this in the review, like I'm unlocking the phone left and right all the time by accident. Just like I'll pick it up for a second just to move it across my desk, and I'll glance at the time, and it's just unlocked instantly. It unlocks with my eyes closed.
That's a problem. I was just about to say, like, unlocked all the time without even thinking about it. That kind of sounds like the dream.
Yeah.
Unlocked with your eyes closed, not the most secure thing. I think it's a very small portion of people who would find that very not secure. I think there's some very niche things. I think some people always
remember girlfriends who will hold the phone over your eyes.
Do you remember
when
iPhone Face Unlock first came out? How many people were like, man, what happens if my girlfriend wants to unlock my phone while I'm sleeping?
Didn't they have to add the attention feature to make sure your eyes are on and looking at the screen for it to unlock?
I forget exactly. I just couldn't believe that argument.
Yeah, I mean,
to be honest,
it is kind of strange. And I've had this complaint, or not complaint, but it's a sort of a trade-off you're making when you have, RGB sensors like from Oneplus 6 in the past, for example, where you look at the phone, it unlocks instantly because it just sees an RGB of your face.
Yeah.
But it can be tricked by like sometimes a photo of you, sometimes you just like glance at it and someone looks like you and it unlocks. You're getting a security trade-off. So the faster it is, the less secure it is. Face ID, pretty fast, but not as fast. Much more secure. It uses a 3D depth map, uses IR. This has yet to be seen. Again, we're reviewing it, but it seems to be a little bit less secure and faster.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off some people might like, some people might not like. But then there's all the other gestures they decided to add in.
Yeah, one more thing that I think is for the gesture that's kind of neat is kind of similar to how Face Unlock works, where if a timer or an alarm's going off when you start reaching for it, it knows you're reaching for it, so it starts to quiet the alarm because it knows you're taking care of it.
I love that.
Great idea. Those two are great ideas for gestures.
Yeah.
And then
there's this sort of swiping going on. Anytime you move to swiping, this is where it sort of starts to lose me. And maybe I'm just doing it wrong because I've watched some other videos where I think I've heard people quote saying it worked 100% of the time, or it looked better than LG's and flawlessly. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to swipe mine, and I'm getting it to work like 1 out of every 12 times.
Yeah.
Really different experiences between me and some other people, but I tried this the most times at the event, and of course there's more software updates to come and everything like that, but there really is no visual feedback about if you're doing it right. So here's an example. You have a song playing in Spotify. Your phone is wireless charging next to you, or you're cooking, your hands are dirty or something, and you want to switch to the next song. What do? You either ask Google to go to the next song, or you just wave at your phone and it magically sees your gesture and swipes to the next song. I tried the simplest version of this, and it just refused to work. Is really, really finicky. To me, it falls again in this gimmick bucket.
For sure.
Until, third-party apps maybe plug in more interesting ways to do it. I think the best part of this really still is the radar, which is just finding this bubble around your phone of activity and knowing when you're in the bubble or not in the bubble.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me pretty smoothly as a transition to the 90 hertz display.
Yeah.
Again, some interesting things about the 90 hertz display. It's not always 90 hertz. Like we've seen, there's some other phones that do this in different ways. But your phone, again, will detect when you're not looking at it and throttle back down to 60 hertz. If you're watching a 60 hertz YouTube video, it'll throttle back down to 60 hertz. So again, this radar and this sort of sense of awareness of like when you're about to use the phone or when you're picking up the phone, all this is sort of coming together, and I think that's probably the best part of the sensor suite, and the gestures not so much on the gestures.
They could have just not shown the gestures, and I would have been more impressed. Honestly,
just leave them out.
The whole faster face unlock and alarm thing, I was like, that's a great idea. That's so simple, and it works, and it's perfect. And then they're like, let's swipe 3 inches further from where you were going to swipe anyways, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it was kind of
That's
tough.
what we should show everybody. Yeah, sorry. That's my rant on that.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll figure it out. Well, again, I'm going to keep using this phone. I have the Pixel 4 XL in I'm going to call it coral. I'm just going to not call it orange anymore. It's very coral.
Are you sure the color's not called not orange?
I think it's called Oh So Orange.
Could be coral.
Could be coral. So we'll test this. We'll come back at you with the full review, but that's been our feeling so far. What do you think? Have you pre-ordered one, or are you even considering? No?
Well, I haven't pre-ordered it.
Okay. What are you considering pre-ordering one? Or just waiting?
I think I'm just going to wait.
Okay.
I wouldn't doubt if I wind up with a Pixel 4 eventually, but nothing like made me jump at my computer.
What's your biggest disappointment with the Pixel 3 that you were hoping Pixel 4 would solve? Performance?
90
hertz?
90 hertz. I mean, 90 hertz is what I'm most excited for sure. I know the camera's still going to be great. Always going to be mad there's no ultra wide.
Yeah.
I have a hot take on Pixel 4.
Okay.
I think I like the old terrible notch better than the giant forehead. I know people aren't going to agree with me on that. I don't think the notch is a great design.
Okay.
I just don't like. I would rather have the chin of the 4 and the notch of the 3, because the chin does get smaller on the 4.
Right. The chin's a little smaller.
So, but then that giant forehead, like I feel like I notice things on the bottom way less than I notice them on the top.
Yeah.
So seeing that huge thing up there, at least with the notch, I get like my notifications and my time in these nice little corners. Whereas this, I feel like it's just completely wasted space on top.
You
of
know
the
what?
phone.
I'm gonna stick out my neck for you, and I'm gonna agree.
Let's go.
That and maybe it's something about I've used so many notched phones this year that I've just gotten used to the sort of ears in the corner where like toss the time up in the right corner, toss the notifications up in the left. I kind of like the look of going to the corners more instead of having a gigantic forehead. Just the way this phone looks. It's a strange look.
It just feels really off. Like it just doesn't feel right. I'm sure everyone will get used to it, just like we all got used to the notch.
The back and the sides of the phone I love.
I think my only other issue with the look of it is the power buttons. I like contrasting power buttons. I wish they were the same color as the back. The orange one's like this pink color.
Yeah,
whereas
that's weird.
The white one's orange. I don't mind that as much. I don't get why before they did a slightly off color, because the phone was all one color, so it contrasted. But now you have black bumpers, so what? You're contrasting no matter what.
Yeah, so just go like white or like the same color. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like the pink button.
Yeah, orange on orange power button on orange, white power button on white. Yeah, I think would have looked perfect.
The black one has a white power button, so that's interesting. The black they just messed up that phone. Anyway, so that's Pixel 4. I feel like we're kind of in our feelings a little bit, but we'll keep figuring it out, and the review will be it'll be a doozy.
This was for sure. These are our like initial feelings. Like we haven't really had any time. As much as everyone thinks we've had the Pixel 4 for like a month, we actually haven't. Marquez has had it for. I don't even know if it's been 24 hours yet.
Yeah, about that. It was really funny reading all the tweets just because I was live tweeting the event, and I every time I'd share something, someone would say like, "You've had that for 4 months, right?"
It didn't help that Linus showed us off too, and they're like, "Well, if one other YouTuber has it, of course, Marquez
they've all
has
got it."
But
So this is super early impressions.
Before we leave on that one, with all of this not having as much hype as I want, all I can think about is why didn't OnePlus release the OnePlus 7T Pro? Because if that comes out right now with all these people, we can all agree that the whole general discussion around this launch event right now before reviews have been out is like, this is not what we were hoping for, right? So imagine all these people who saved out for Pixel 4 didn't buy a 7 Pro. Right now, if 7T Pro came out, how many of those people do you think would hop to OnePlus? But 7T Pro is not coming out in the US.
I think it would have been a very compelling cross shop. I think 7T Pro right now, even we don't have a price. Let's say it's $700.
Yeah.
Because the 7 Pro is $669. So let's say $700 you get for the 7T Pro, better chip, Snapdragon 855 Plus.
Yeah.
More RAM, 8 gigs, right? You have better storage. I don't know if they said UFS 3.0 or 2.0 for Pixel.
I feel like they said no specs about Pixel.
Yeah, I mean, but only 64 gigs as base. So you're getting $700. You get 128 gigs of UFS 3 storage.
Storage. Sorry.
Yeah, and then you get a larger battery by a lot. So if you're looking at, again, the bigger phone for this, you're like, I don't want the Pixel 4 XL 3700 milliamp hour battery. The 7T Pro has a 4000 milliamp hour battery, 4085. You're going to miss out on wireless charging, but you have Warp Charge 30T, which is very, very fast. And then, you're getting Android 10 out the box also with that phone, and maybe the biggest downside is the curved screen.
And the camera.
And the cameras, exactly.
But it's all very close.
It's close.
I keep forgetting about wireless charging. Why do I like wireless charging so much?
Well, that's one of those things that once you get used to it, it's hard to go back.
It really is. I was literally just, as you were asking me about Pixel 4, I'm like, I really wish 7T Pro came, because I would probably hop on that, but I have a wireless charger everywhere now, and
that's actually, I just wondering about the battery life is another concern on the Pixels, because the smaller Pixel 4
went down.
It has a smaller battery than the Pixel 3.
Yeah.
It has a 2800 milliamp hour battery from 2915. And you're looking at a 1.5x refresh rate on the display. Yeah. So how is that battery going to hold up?
That's why I honestly just think the smaller Pixel, especially the 64 gig, is no one's going to buy it, except here's another plus deal. But available on all carriers. I just thought about that because the only people who are going to buy that phone are on carriers.
Yeah.
Great for Pixel sales because they're available in all carriers, but oh man, we've gone off the rails here a little bit.
Well, there's that, and there's just like, even on the XL, it has a 3700 milliamp hour battery, and it has a really high resolution display. It's a 3200 by 1800 display. So if you think about the OnePlus 7 Pro we were just talking about, OnePlus 7T Pro, that would have been a 2560 by 1440. So this is higher res than that. This is like a 500 DPI display, 3K, and 90 hertz. And you're probably maxing the brightness out all the time because it's not so bright. Even on the XL, the batteries might struggle. So I'm gonna keep an eye out for other reviewers that are testing the smaller phone, because I'm testing the bigger one right now, and that's the one I'll be reviewing. But I'm gonna keep an eye out for the small phones too. If that's even a thing they gave out. They might have hesitated on that too.
Yeah, man, Google really has this thing of like, let's do half of these things great, and let's do the other half of them literally enough to where you might not want the phone anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, before we start crying openly on this podcast, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with our guests, Justine and Jenna. We'll talk camera camp. We'll talk iPhone 2020. Be right back. This episode of Waveform is sponsored by LinkedIn. Hiring the right person takes time that you don't often have. But you shouldn't let the time crunch get in the way of finding the right candidates for your business. That's why LinkedIn is the best place to post your job. By using LinkedIn's jobs platform, you can let LinkedIn do the heavy lifting by putting your available positions in front of the people that you want to hire, the people that have the exact skills that you're looking for to add to your team. LinkedIn also looks at things like collaboration, creativity, and adaptability, characteristics that go beyond general work skills so that you can connect with your candidates who match your business perfectly. And LinkedIn has over 600 million members that are ready to learn and grow as professionals and discover new job opportunities. So through their large user base and job search technology, that's how LinkedIn can make sure your job post gets in front of the people you want to hire so you can find your perfect candidate fast. It's no wonder great candidates are hired every 8 seconds. So with LinkedIn Jobs, you can pay what you want, and the first $50 is on them. Just visit linkedin.com/wave. That's linkedin.com/WAVE to get $50 off your first jobs post. Terms and conditions apply. This episode of Waveform is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Recently, over 100 million people had their personal information stolen in a major data breach. So social security numbers, contact details, credit scores, and more were all taken from Capital One customers. There's a good chance you were affected. These kinds of attacks are getting more and more frequent and more severe. So it's not just Capital One. Equifax, Facebook, eBay, Uber, PlayStation, and Yahoo have all leaked passwords, credit cards, and bank numbers belonging to billions of users. That's where ExpressVPN comes in. You can't control how big corporations may mishandle your data, but you can protect yourself. ExpressVPN is an app for your computer and phone that encrypts and secures your data. So hey, if a breach can happen to Capital One, it can happen to you, right? Don't go online without ExpressVPN if you care about your privacy and safety. ExpressVPN connects with just one click. It's lightning fast and costs less than $7 a month. ExpressVPN is rated the #1 VPN provider by TechRadar, CNET, The Verge, and countless others. Use my special link, expressvpn.com/wave, right now to arm yourself with an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Support the show and protect yourself. That's expressvpn.com/wave for an extra 3 months free. All right, so we're back, and we're back with our second ever guests on the Waveform podcast. Welcome, Justine and Jenna Ezarik, sisters, tech YouTubers, internet just general tech enthusiasts. Welcome to Waveform.
Thank you.
So,
do we sit at the same time?
Yeah, that was
it's probably going to happen a lot.
That was very sisterly to be right on cue with that. We could talk about a ton of things, but I know you guys both talk a lot of camera stuff and a lot of Apple stuff all the time, just because that's obviously super important in the world of tech. I want to talk about Camera Camp, because you guys both, how would you describe Camera Camp? You ran the camp, or you used it as a tutorial or a learning experience, or just talk me through what is Camera Camp?
It was honestly the best time ever. So Sony does this event called Condo, and they've been doing it for like I think this was their 3rd year that they did it. And last year we went, and it was mostly based for photographers. So there was a few YouTubers there, and we're like, this is so fun, because we actually made some really great connections, made some friends, and just left there inspired and learned a lot.
Nice.
So we wanted to do that same thing, but for video creators. And Sony was so on board with every single crazy idea that we had. We wanted it to have a camp vibe, and we wanted there to be learning, but also just fun. And it was really, really fun.
Yeah, so we had it in like a ranch in Montana. We had like 80 some creators come out, and then we had a second group of people come out, and there was workshops, and there were dogs, and there was just a lot of activities on the ranch. So it was a really cool opportunity to just create content and collab.
A ranch in Montana.
Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. Sounds like very isolated and sort of out of the way, and they just got like a ton of snow. So when it's a camera camp, so it's specifically for video. So it's like if people are interested in making video or making better video, this is a camp to learn to do it better.
Basically, yeah. I mean, we wanted to have like a camp vibe as well, but it was really, we want you to learn. And I feel like most of the learning took place from each other. So like Jenna went and did like some astrophotography, but they also had a bunch of Sony instructors that teach these things all the time.
Right.
But a lot of the stuff, like we were just learning from each other and just really having fun and doing collabs.
That's something I found that when I shoot with other YouTubers, I learn the most. So when we'll collab, or we'll go out to LA and I'll shoot with the thousands of other YouTubers that are all in LA. Number one thing I always find is I learn the most either about gear or about workflow from other YouTubers. Do you have any like pro tips that you got from Camera Camp that you can share from another YouTuber maybe that you learned? Or is it all top secret intel?
I mean, I think probably as soon as you have the footage, you should back up that SD card, because I know some people had lost some footage also. So that is something that I'm always just obsessed about, is making backups of the backups.
Also, if you're testing anything that a product isn't out yet, make sure it's actually compatible with your camera that you're using. Just so there was a little incident.
Yeah. I was shooting some stuff, and then I didn't have like the we had a scavenger hunt. It was really fun. I was so excited. We took all these pictures, and then I realized the camera that I was using wasn't out yet. So trying to import those images into Lightroom, like there wasn't.
It didn't know what was going on.
It didn't know what was going on. So we had to go back and like take some JPEGs of it so that it would actually work. But
that's actually, I've had that problem a couple times. It's such a very rare problem to have, where you're using a product and suddenly, the codec doesn't exist for what I'm using, or the product isn't out yet, so things don't work. But that is a good tip to definitely keep in mind.
I have run into the situation where you have something that isn't out, and then I'll run into somebody on the street, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, Justine, good to see you. And then they take a selfie, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just leak this product in this selfie? So I'm always like hiding everything.
I'm pretty good about that. I'm pretty good. I've had people like almost, I guess I talk a lot of phone stuff. So if I have an unreleased phone, usually people are like, hey, so I bought this phone because of you. That's like the number one thing people say. And then what phone are you using right now? And I'm like,
don't know.
It's a secret. I can't tell you. You'll figure it out in like a week when the video comes out. So I'm usually pretty good about that. But one product that was hard to hide was the Apple Watch Series 5. I was using it and I was testing it, but it's an always-on display. And the day that I got it, I was outside and it was sort of dark out. We were around a campfire, and immediately one of my teammates is like, so that's the Series 5, right? It's got the always-on screen. I was like, well, yeah, I guess now you know. There's not much I can say like to hide it or whatever, but yeah, that's been kind of interesting.
No, it is really cool, but it's been so much fun just getting to test these things out too, because mean, you are sort of the first person to get to do this. It's also like even testing out video games where normally I'll go through and be like, oh shoot, I'm stuck at this one part. I'm going to go do a walkthrough. There's no walkthroughs. So you just have to figure it out.
True. Are you testing unreleased Sony products? Is that what's happening?
Well, that was the one cool thing too about our camera camp was Sony had all of these cameras and all of these lenses, and the 6600. I don't think it's out yet. Right?
I don't think it was at the time.
At the time, yeah. So they had like a bunch of those cameras just for testing and for people to use. So I guess sometimes you do get to test the unreleased cameras.
That is the best part though, is they have all this gear. I mean, it's basically like just take one of these massive walls and just fill it with every single possible lens, every body, every combination of everything, and they have it there.
It's insane. It's
so
overwhelming.
Great. Yeah, you can just go in and try stuff out, which is really fun.
I mean, they had the one lens. It's like a $13,000 lens. It's like I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like,
I guess on one hand, that's smart of Sony to offer like their nice high end and maybe unreleased stuff, so you learn how to use it really well and then get used to it, and then you go back to your photography or your video, and you're kind of like, well, maybe I should pick up that 6600 that I just learned to do all these tricks with.
Which we did, because the first year at Condo, we tested out the 8mm or the 80mm.
85.
G Master was 85.
85, yeah.
Immediately had to buy it after. And then this year it was the 135. And the shots are so amazing. So you definitely, you end up doing a little shopping
dangerous.
Afterwards.
Yes, to us gearheads. Anytime I hang out with it's two people. John Morrison.
Yeah.
John Morrison is super guilty. I've probably spent more because of him than anyone else. And Peter McKinnon. They'll show me a piece of gear and they'll be like, here, just try it. Just use it. Just give it a shot. And I'll take one photo with an 85 and be like, I need an 85. I don't need an 85, but I get one because these people are very convincing.
Every time we're in LA with John, you try something and it's at our door by the time we make it back.
It's literally every time. Sometimes I get it shipped to LA so I can use it for the rest of my trip while I'm there.
It's dangerous. But yeah, Camera Camp was really great. I just think it was just such a fun experience just to be able to like get a bunch of creators out of their element and just have fun and talk. And me and Jenna also did a session where we wanted everyone to turn their phones off, cameras off. Like it was like an off limits kind of session where we just talked about like burnout, because it is such a real issue, I think, in our industry and in every industry. So it's just trying to find those boundaries and how to survive, really.
Yeah. Do you think the reason I couldn't go this year was because it was right up in like Techtober, right at the beginning?
Yes.
Do you think you're doing it again next year? And if so, what kind of, is it going to be the same place, different time? What kind of plans are there?
We're not sure. It just ended, but it was the only time that we could get this ranch. And I sent invites out to like all the tech YouTubers. I was like, I realize this is iPhone season. You're probably not going to come, but I just want you to know you're invited.
Okay.
And it's totally okay to say no. Like, I get it. But it was great because Montana doesn't have sales tax. So we all shipped our phones there.
Doesn't have sales tax.
Yeah, and the watch, the ceramic, and the iPhone. I saved like $300.
You definitely save a lot of money on sales tax.
Great.
There's some states that don't have sales tax, and then some states that don't have income tax. And then I think there's one other thing, but I don't know if there's any perfect state with none of these things. I know Florida doesn't have, I think it's income tax. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some interesting things. Anyway, I hope you do it again. And if you do, I hope it's in an equally beautiful place at a
different time.
Yeah,
I would love to go.
I know. Season 2.
Okay. So I have
but before we end, can I go off of? So we had something on the podcast once where Marquez and I discussed your favorite way to take pictures when you're doing something like hiking or traveling where you don't want to carry something too big around. So now that you just went to camera camp and both of you guys seem to go to a national park like every month.
We do.
What are your favorites? Why do you like them? Pros and cons of them?
I love the which dog is that? We're not even sure at this point.
Yeah.
I love the RX 100 Mark 7 that just came out recently because it does have an audio input and it's small. So what I'll do is I will just put like a lav mic on and then just keep it permanently like attached to myself, and then I'll just plug it directly into the camera. So I can do like this very small sort of setup. It still shoots 4K. You can still shoot up to has high frame rate. So it's just very easy to use.
What about for pictures though?
Yeah.
It does do RAW.
It does do RAW.
It's a great photo camera.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's like that or the RX Zero, which is really nice.
Does that have the bigger sensor? Is that a 1-inch sensor or bigger?
It does. It's the same as the RX 100.
Okay.
So that's great. And then honestly, just a phone. Like the phone sometimes is the best bet because, when you are hiking, you need that extra space to carry water. And I also always travel with a satellite phone too. So that thing is massive.
That's a good idea.
Really?
I mean, you can text from like the middle of nowhere in the mountain as long as you have access to the sky.
That's a good pro tip. Bring a phone that doesn't depend on AT&T towers.
Or any cell towers, because most of the time there isn't reception out there. And I have one of the Garmin InReach ones, and I got the bigger version because it works at like the North and South Pole, which I was like, I have to get this one because what if I'm at the North or the South Pole?
Might be out there.
I would recommend getting the mini because it can also connect to your phone, so you can just text and still use like the satellite. So it's pretty great. So definitely recommend it if you're outdoorsy.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's a good segue because I want to talk about phone camera. Just kidding. I just want to talk about the iPhone. We want to talk iPhone 2020. So we did a video on your channel talking about sort of experience with the last like 3 weeks of using the iPhone 11, which has had a great camera. And the main new things were the battery, the camera, and iOS and the new 813. I have a small list of what I'm hoping is in the 2020 iPhone. So I want to go through one by one, go down this list, and we can all weigh in on how much we care about or want this to happen or not. Because there's some things that we sort of say we want, like reverse wireless charging. And then we're like, well, do we actually care about that? Or is that just sort of a fun novelty thing? Do we actually want that? So I'm going to go down my tiny list and we can give like a score of 1 to 10 of how bad we want it.
Okay. This is going to be fun.
Okay. So right off the top, we already know we're probably going to get an A14 Bionic. I feel like that's sort of a given.
Yeah.
Performance is already great on the iPhones. I don't know if anyone's like dying for an A14, but that's probably going to happen. So I'll just like leave that on the table. USB Type-C.
Yeah, come on, 10, 11, 12, 13. Like, I'm so sick of carrying around all of these cables. Like, I just want to have one cable.
I really want USB Type-C in the iPhone.
And
it's already, it's in the iPad Pro already, right?
Yeah.
So when I heard we were going to get iPhone Pro, I was like, that's a perfect time. If you're going to change the name, just drop USB Type-C in there. Are you already charging like everything with USB Type-C?
I mean, yeah, I do everything with USB Type-C. So like having some friends like, hey, do you have an Apple cable?
Nope.
I don't.
Sorry.
So
I mean, do you guys remember when they like switched over to the Lightning? Like
It was a
people
big
were
deal.
like freaking out. Like, do you think that they're worried that that's going to be the same thing?
But that was this huge
Apple's
pin
not
connector
True.
into something that made sense. I don't know why.
Yeah, why were
anyone
we
was
mad
upset
about that? Yeah, no, we're ready for the change now.
We were mad about Lightning because everyone had the 30 pin. Every accessory in the world, every iPod, everything possible had the 30 pin connector. Since then, Apple's gotten rid of the headphone jack and they've switched to Lightning, and Lightning is definitely smaller and it makes perfect sense and it can carry more power. But it's been a couple years now and I don't think they're scared of any backlash. They're clearly willing to mess with ports. I think it's got to be this year that we get a USB-C iPhone.
Next year.
2020.
Yeah,
I think it's got to be 2020.
It's almost here.
So I'm putting that at like a 9 out of 10 for me.
It's pretty high on my list.
I'll probably rank it like an 8.
Oh,
That's high.
I said 11.
That's
but
like well, I gave it like that's like a B. Nice 80%.
It's pretty high.
Am I rating this as someone who
Yeah.
doesn't use an iPhone?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, then I can help my friends out when
There
they
you
need to
go.
get
Oh, that's
charged.
so
So yeah,
nice.
I'll go 10.
That's a good reason.
That's most
Well, which
important.
phone do you have? Does it have reverse wireless
I have a
charging? Because then I
Pixel.
can
It
charge.
does
Oh,
not,
okay, it
no.
does not.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
so
Not that helpful.
you're not going to be very helpful.
Not at all.
How am I going to airdrop you these pictures of Mac?
I do have a Mac computer only here.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. God, airdrop.
That's all I can do.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so next thing I'm kind of hoping for is a ProMotion display. And again, I was hoping for it this year, but ProMotion being the 120 hertz, super high refresh rate OLED screen on the iPhone. Heard we were getting a Pro. Heard we were getting ProMotion. Didn't happen. I would say now the iPhone is already one of the most responsive phones, but using some of these 90 hertz and 120 hertz phones, and it's starting to pick up some steam, I'm really hoping we get a high refresh rate iPhone. That is definitely something I don't think is a gimmick and that I want.
I think so. Even just using like the Oneplus recently, I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so maybe this does feel a little bit different.
Do you notice the difference between
It did.
90? Yeah.
Well, just even like when I'm taking photos, just like that slight little bit, like it does make a big difference. But
Yeah.
unless you're looking for it, even like looking at the iPhone 11 compared to the Pro,
Yeah.
I mean, when you hold them side by side, it's definitely something that's noticeable. So, I mean, I think maybe it's probably about a 7 on my list. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh my God, I need this, but I'd be into it.
I'll probably give it like a 6.
I'm going to give it an 8 for me.
Okay.
It's pretty high.
I don't have a rating, but I'm excited. If it goes 120, you have people coming from 60. You probably haven't even experienced 90, and they're going to jump all the way to 120. So I can't wait till people are like, this is the smoothest thing I've ever felt. This is the fastest phone alive.
The ROG Phone 2 that I used that had a 120 hertz display, so the difference between 60 and 90, big difference. I could tell instantly. Difference between 90 and 120, I could kind of sometimes tell the difference. It was certain scrolling, certain UI things, the camera sometimes I could tell. But yeah, I just hope it's above 60. I'll just put it that way. So really open for that. Okay, so that's pretty high. Let's toss reverse wireless charging on there, because I know a lot of phones have sort of been adding this, Samsung, Huawei. How do you guys feel about reverse wireless charging? Do you care at all?
there's no one that I will sacrifice my iPhone battery life for.
But
So-
would you
Fair
be
point.
asking me for my battery?
Yeah, would you want someone else to offer it
that's
to
the
you?
thing.
I would never do that to someone. Like,
Really?
what kind of criminal do you have to be to say,
don't
I
believe
need
you.
your battery? No. Okay, no. I don't. Like,
How many
I-
times you're like, I forgot my Mophie, I forgot my charger. Like, hey,
You're-
just give me your phone for a second. Like, I just need a little. Like, I don't believe. As your sister, I do not believe you.
I forget everything.
I just want, like, borrowing someone's external battery is one thing, like, because it's their external. They don't need it right now. But, like, siphoning someone's battery directly seems...
Siphoning's a weird term for it.
Siphoning.
It feels like
That's
you're stealing
perfect,
gas.
actually,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, it's a pretty aggressive thing. Look, I think it's a cool feature. And I think it would be great if if it was Qi, so you could put your AirPods on the back. Like, people compare phone to phone wireless charging. That's not very efficient. But if you have your AirPods in your bag and you're on the plane and they're dead and you just turn it upside down and give them 5 minutes and you have some headphones for the flight, that's kind of convenient. So I'm like a 5 with this one.
I would say like a 4. I do like the AirPod comparison. I think
Yeah,
that's
I think
great.
AirPods are
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
it's.
I like that. I mean, I can see like emergency situations, but like, what kind of an emergency is really, you never know. Like, just be like, let me use your phone.
That's why I would carry my Samsung.
Yeah,
I'll just-
well,
You know what it is? It's great.
braggy.
It's a great demo feature. It turns heads, but like I heard the iPhone has the coils for it now. It has the regular wireless charging coils and it has an additional reverse facing coil, but software didn't turn the feature on. I don't know if that's
I'd
true
heard
or
that
not.
also. I
think it's
didn't look at the
teardown.
iFixit stuff, but
Because a lot of the rumors were saying this was going to be the phone that they were
Yeah.
going to do it.
Well, has
Yeah.
anyone tried it?
Well, no.
Hasn't
I'm
worked
assuming
yet. But,
someone's tried it.
I think I'd give it a 4.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a score?
I'm not that worried
No,
about it.
not too big.
Doesn't
Not
even
at
want
One
to
or
rank.
two.
Yeah, you don't even care.
Pretty low.
I mean,
Doesn't
I'll
get a
steal
number.
some of your batteries someday.
True. Okay, so another thing I'm hoping for is Touch ID to come back, but in the form of an under display glass fingerprint reader. Now, Touch ID was already awesome in like the actual button. People hated it when it was gone. There's a rumor of an iPhone SE 2 coming out in the first quarter of next year, which is cool. That'll have Touch ID. But how much do you guys care about an under display glass fingerprint reader? I'm at like a I'm gonna say I'm at like a 5 or 6 with this one. It would be cool, but not a huge deal.
I would like it on the Apple logo. I mean, I honestly love the
Ah.
Pixel. Like, it has like the perfect placement. Like, I just pick up my phone like this on my Pixel, and well, you guys can't see it because it's audio, but it's like I have my phone laying face down. I just pick it up, and my finger is already on the fingerprint.
Right.
And I pick it up, and it's like it's just on.
So
Like,
the
it's
back of the
really-
phone.
I really like it.
But would Apple ever do that though?
Probably not. I mean, I'm okay without the in-display fingerprint reader.
Right. Do you
I mean-
do you have any Face ID issues ever?
Oh God, I always have issues. I think it's like a me problem. When
Is it your
I think it might be my face. Like, I think it's a
Or-
personal problem. So I wouldn't mind having it. I'd probably give this like a 7 or 8 because I like the Touch ID.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't need it. I am accustomed to the Face ID, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, it doesn't recognize me. I have to like rescan my face. I'm like, okay, is this personal? I don't. What's the problem?
One idea for Touch ID is it would be, because all the ones we see now are just like a small circle under the glass.
Yeah.
But we've seen prototypes of other phones where they put it as like the bottom half of the screen. So it's a very, very large sensor under the glass, but you don't have to do as much worrying. You just kind of touch the side of the phone and it wakes up.
Yeah.
That would be kind of nice. I don't know if it's too expensive still to do that. Those are really big, expensive sensors. But that's one way to make it more enticing, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not that worried about it. But I think it would be nice, especially for people that don't want to use Face ID. I mean, I know my friend Ro, she won't even use a fingerprint sensor or Face ID. She only uses a passcode because she's that
Is that a paranoid thing?
Yes.
Wow.
Huh.
It's incredible.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Unless your password's like the Kanye password, you have to do a lot of typing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I'm not that worried about it. Again,
Not a
sorry.
super-
Yeah, I'm realizing like how many features I'm missing by not having an iPhone here.
I mean, there's a lot of Android phones getting some of these features
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
true.
so that's pretty high up. I have one more, and that is no notch. Because the iPhone's had this big notch for 3 years in a row now, and year by year, a bunch of surrounding phones seem to slowly chip away at the notch. They go to a hole punch, they go to a small teardrop notch, they go to a pop-up camera. If you've been using an iPhone for 3 years, you're super used to the notch, so you might not feel strongly about it. But the second you see a phone that doesn't have a notch, you're like, well, this is pretty different. How do you guys feel about a no-notch iPhone?
I'd be excited about it. I think it would look good, especially because I don't ever watch videos in landscape. Yeah, this is in landscape mode.
Yeah.
So I watch everything in portrait. So half of the videos that I watch, I'll have like a chunk cut out of the top.
Oh, you
of
full
it.
screen them and you get the chunk cut out?
I don't even full screen it. I watch a video that is like
Like in the YouTube app, like
in the YouTube app, and it's extremely small.
Why don't you just turn your phone?
I don't.
Yeah.
I have it turned off. I don't like when I turn my phone that it automatically turns. It drives me insane.
Is there not you can lock it and then when you do full screen it only does that? That's what I have mine at. It won't turn until I go full screen into a video and then
So you can lock rotation and then hit the full screen button and it'll just rotate the video, but not any other time. And then when you leave full screen, it'll go back to portrait. But
I never do that. I just watch everything.
I agree with you though. I hate
like
when my
this.
phone just starts freaking out, and
Yeah.
spinning around. I
sure.
can't stand it.
Yeah.
What you watching?
What's up, Jedner?
Do you want to practice video?
So, but this is actually interesting because usually when I'm watching a video, I think they may have just done an update for the iOS 13. Usually on this YouTube player, there's a huge notch cut out of it.
Right. That's definitely a nice
This is definitely
update for that.
different because before I was watching a video and half my head was chopped off. So I started even shooting my videos differently so that when I'd watch them on my phone,
It's real.
It
It's
is.
real if you're
It's
losing
true.
part of the video.
Yeah, but-
I think by 2020 there will be so many other phones that either don't have a notch or have dramatically shrunk the notch that unless the iPhone's Face ID is amazing, they kind of have to shrink the notch. So I'm gonna go like 8 on this one. It can't be the same size.
I think I'll give it a 7. I could definitely do with a smaller one.
definitely smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least
8,
smaller.
maybe an 8.
Okay.
What about
Wait.
a pop-up camera?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Do you want smaller or do you want none? You think there's no chance at no notch for next year?
I don't see Apple doing the
can't
motorized
imagine
pop-up
it.
camera, so I see them basically just shrinking the notch to like half the size it is now.
Okay.
The teardrop notch was pretty great, but they obviously have all those other sensors, the IR blaster, the receiver. Touch ID has more needed to do all that. But if there's ways to miniaturize it and put them closer together, it could be a notch that's half the size and
So
less
you're saying
annoying.
it's gonna shrink in horizontally, right?
Right, maybe a little bit vertically, but just it can't be the same size.
Do you think there's a chance that looks worse? Like right
No.
now, it has the perfect amount of room for just notification. So
Yeah.
like kind of, whereas when it gets smaller, like this dumb pixel notch. Like,
Yeah, you got the
that's
Pixel, you
not
got
great.
the XL
Yeah.
notch, you got that bathtub notch.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you? I
I
know
don't know.
Pixel 4.
I think this looks worse, and it would be closer to this.
Well, then I'll ask you, how do you feel about the Pixel 4 having just a forehead instead of a notch? That's better, right?
I guess it's
Technically?
better than a notch. I still think it looks terrible though.
Interesting.
I mean, I'll get used to it. I got used to this.
yeah.
I'll be fine with it. It still doesn't mean I like it. So
I just feel like they definitely wouldn't do the pop-up camera because that would be
Yeah, I
so much like room for error and just people being like, "Oops, broke it."
yeah,
Need a phone.
it would break.
Yeah.
It'd be
I never
pretty
cared
wild.
about the notch, and now I can't stop looking at it on my phone.
it's like when you notice you're
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Sorry,
oh my gosh,
everybody.
now I'm just staring at this notch. I'm like, oh, maybe I changed mine to a 9
Also,
or a
fairly
10.
Yeah.
recently, I just noticed that I can see my nose.
I had a whole conversation about this.
Really?
Where is your tongue in your mouth right now? Now you're thinking about
what?
where
Oh
your
my
tongue is
God.
in your
Oh
mouth.
god, it's,
Everyone turn the podcast
Oh,
off. Who's
oh, God.
listening right now? You're gonna have a miserable car ride.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, I also noticed that recently too. Like, as in yoga, she was like, "Okay, now let your tongue go." I'm like, well, "Where's it gonna
Yeah,
go?"
well-
that's how you choke.
I'm not holding on to it.
I'm like, I'm supposed to be in shavasana and relaxing. I'm like, now I'm thinking about my tongue.
Jeez. Yeah, no. I think that notch, we've gotten so calibrated to it and so used to it, so it sort of makes sense to just leave it there, but I'm with you. I want it to be smaller.
Yeah, because now I really can't stop looking at it, and
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna survive. So thanks for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's our little rundown of iPhone 2020 features. I'm sure the rumors and leaks will continue to pour in over the next 11 months while we wait for it.
I mean,
but,
this design was leaked in like January.
Yeah, no, we're gonna
last
see
year.
it
Like, it's
way
crazy.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you hate that we see them like way before they come out and the surprise is gone?
I mean, like, not really, because I think they at least had a little surprise, like the Midnight Green, completely a surprise.
True.
Didn't know. I don't know. I mean, I do kind of miss the days of where you're like, oh,
Because you remember the days of like,
Yes.
what on earth are they going to announce? A new iPhone with that design? I've never seen that before. Like really novel stuff that just doesn't seem to happen very much.
It's just too hard. I mean, I think with the way that information travels and the way that you have to get these in mass production to actually get them out on time so people can have them, it really is impossible.
You got to pull Microsoft and just announce it a year before it comes out.
That was pretty great, I will
Yeah.
say. I was pretty excited. And I loved the demonstration that they did. They showed sort of like the brain activity of your brain when you're using two screens.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that frustration when I'm using my phone or something. I'm like, I just throw it aside and I'm like, I gotta go to my computer because I need more space.
I've been a multi-monitor. I've said this before, a multi-monitor person forever. until the iMac Pro. And every single day I use the iMac Pro, I am ready for dual screens again. So when that Pro Display XDR and the Mac Pro come out, I will be back on that gladly.
I do miss that because I used to do the dual screens too, but then I traveled so much that it was just like I need to get back to just using my MacBook, and then I miss, I just have to, that's what I got to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been good. I like that we have a lot to look forward to with the new iPhone, but generally, pretty good, rating system. We have all our expectations set out, so that's been good. Thank you guys for being on the podcast and for having that chat with us.
Yeah.
And if you haven't checked out Justine's video, we did a little talk about, again, like I said, iPhone 11. We've been using it for a couple weeks and running down all this stuff. And of course, it's Techtober, so there's a ton of stuff coming out anyway. So enjoy that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. That was another fun one. Thank you, Justine and Jenna, for joining us today. It was a little hectic. We had some dogs barking in the background. It was our first time having 4 people. If you want to give us a download or a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you want to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts, that would be great. Still have a bet going where if we hit 5,000 ratings, we will do a Hot Ones inspired question and answer, which I'm really looking forward to. Waveform is brought to you in production with Studio 71, and our intro-outro track is created by Cameron Barlow.